Welcome to Cybersmart's Chatterbox series for parents. I'm Kelly.
I'm Cara.
And I'm Gulsum. We've all been teachers in Australian schools and are now education advisors for the Cybersmart educational program.
Cybersmart Chatterbox has been designed to help parents help their children and whole families to find out how to be cybersmart and to use the internet safely. You can join the conversation in the forum below.
Okay, speak up if you've ever been addicted to Candy Crush.
Oh, yes, that's me.
I don't know, I'm on 117. Is that addicted?
Oh, novice, I'm on 365. So as adults who have experienced some sort of mild or maybe not so mild forms of gaming addiction, as in my case, I'm sure we can understand how easily children can become addicted to various online games and activities too.
Well, between smartphones, tablets and laptops, kids are spending many hours behind a screen a day. Unless a good balance of time offline and online is maintained, it can start to feel quite excessive or even compulsive and interfere with their physical and mental health.
Now, Gulsum, you mentioned excessive and compulsive internet use. Isn't it just the same thing, or is there a difference?
Excessive internet use generally refers to an amount of use that's becoming a little disruptive to the user and their daily activities, whereas compulsive use refers to an inability to control or reduce use at all. That's where the line into addiction may be crossed.
We know that when it comes to excessive use, there's quite a bit of gender difference. Girls are generally spending their time on social media and social networking, and that's because girls like to talk more and they like to write more. But boys, on the other hand, are spending their time gaming or watching videos. They love the entertainment side of it. However, we've also seen quite a significant rise in girls that are gaming too.
I think most of the issues around spending too much time online arise from the fact that these days our kids often have less supervision and more control in the online environment. So gone are the days where experts advocate putting the home computer in, say, a communal place. Kids have access to the internet literally in the palm of their hand all day, every day. And it's much harder to manage what they're doing, what they're seeing and who they're talking to. And this is where it becomes important to set limits.
I agree, and for that reason I think it's really important to empower our kids with the tools to identify potentially risky situations online, as well as the tools to recognise when their screen time may become excessive or compulsive. It's important that they understand the potential consequences of excessive screen time on their physical or mental health and also their relationships too.
So we know that excessive internet use can have some major impacts on a child's life, such as physical, social, psychological and developmental impacts, which we'll get to a bit later on. But the first question really is, what motivates excessive use, apart from the obvious fact that some of these games, some of these apps, some of these things that you can do on devices are quite awesome and simply quite addictive.
As we all know, a lot of our socialising these days is done online. It's important for a lot of people to be connected and keep up with our friends and what's happening in real time. Also, modern entertainment and gaming requires quite a bit of time commitment. So in order to get the most out of online gaming experiences, players have to be available when their teams and friends are online. Games like League of Legends and the Call of Duty games.
There's also the fact that being able to access information at any time is really, really tempting and convenient to most people. For example, how many times have you been debating something with friends and have just Googled the answer? Or quickly snuck a little peek at the footy scores on your phone during dinner with friends?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And now that we know what excessive use is and why as adults our kids can be compelled to be online around the clock, I'm actually keen to chat about the damage it can do and the negative impacts of too much screen time.
Well, one of the things we do know is that excessive internet use can really affect your child's sleep. And I don't just mean the fact that some kids are setting alarms at 2 a.m. so they can wake up and play games without being restricted or play with the best gamers in Europe. No, what I mean is excessive screen time and absorbing artificial light at night can affect natural body rhythms and hormones such as melatonin.
Yeah, that's right. And also gaming or social activities soon before bed can be extremely stimulating to the brain and can make it hard to wind down and have that restful sleep, which then leads to decreased energy and concentration levels the next day at school.
And apart from the sleep interference, excessive time engaged in any sedentary activity like gaming or sitting on the computer or watching television can really affect physical health. These issues include the poor posture, sore eyes and necks, and the potential for repetitive strain injury.
I've also read that excessive use of the internet, particularly social networking and gaming, has been linked with increased feelings of loneliness, isolation, depression and anxiety. Though, in reality, these feelings of shame or loss of control experienced by excessive use of anything is enough to promote anxiety, I think.
So the key message here is that there's no problem with increased internet use, only excessive use. And the same applies across the board to any activity that's excessive. So as long as our kids have a balanced and moderate approach to their activities, all is fine.
Okay, so we've talked about achieving a healthy balance in our child's life and activities, but how do you know if your child's level of internet use is affecting their life in negative ways? Or more importantly, how do we empower our kids to identify their own excessive use?
I think it's important to talk to your kids about this and let them know that if they're losing touch with friends or friendship groups, except for those online, or they're feeling their physical or emotional health is being compromised because of the time spent online, then this could be problematic.
As a parent, I often wonder, how do I define how much time my kids should be spending online and what time limit and boundaries I should be setting?
Cara, when I'm out delivering CyberSmart presentations to parents across the country, this is one of the most common questions I get asked. And the truth is, there is no magic number. Every family and every child is different, and so the requirements and times can vary. It really is up to the individual family to decide on the best balance of activities both online and offline to suit their needs. Having said that, I do believe that adults should actively moderate the internet and technology use of their kids under the age of 16.
So what's the best way to address excessive use of the internet? As a parent or carer, how would you deal with such an issue? Because we know that with some kids, when you take their devices off them or tell them they have to stop playing a game, they often get quite upset, even angry. Some kids even resort to violence.
I think the key is open, honest communication. Ask your child to honestly assess the impact their use is having on their real life relationships with family members and friends, their other daily activities, and just the basic care they're taking of themselves. Once you've had this chat, try to agree on achievable steps for gradually reducing time online, and also try to agree on blackout periods where there's no online usage. For example, a blackout period after 8 p.m. or before all their homework is complete.
Now, speaking of that, it's also important your child knows that screen time is not a right, it's a privilege. So try to use it as a reward. For example, once they have completed their homework or finished their chores, then they can have some screen time.
Yeah, it's also important that your child knows they have a responsibility to stick to the family's technology rules. So explain the consequences they'll face if they break those rules. For example, you might choose to restrict the technology or increase their chores, whatever you think is appropriate for your own family. Either way, the key to ensuring your child understands that technology is a privilege is to follow through on your word about those consequences should they not follow those family guidelines.
Now, kids do have to learn certain responsibilities when it comes to technology, but as adults, so do we. For example, that Grand Theft Auto 5 game your child got for Christmas is actually rated R18+ by the Australian Classification Board. So just remember, those classifications are there for a reason, and allow yourself to be guided by these when choosing games for our kids.
Some good advice there. Thanks for tuning in. For more information on balancing online and offline time, please visit our website on www.cybersmart.gov.au.
3 logos appear: the Australian Government crest and the words Australian Government, the ACMA Australian Communications and Media Authority, and CyberSmart. The end.